Alrighty. Hey everybody. Thank you for joining me today. My name is Patrick Donathan, and what I've done is created an analysis for an idea called Living Water, Camps and Retreats. The goal of today is to share with you my idea and vision for Living Water, the financial support in this idea, and some of the risks that may be involved with starting this camp. I do all of this to ask for an investment from you into Living Water. So what's our potential? Think about this for a second. 1.5 million, 7.7 million, 77. What does this mean? Well, first, there's 1.5 million churches in the state of Texas. There are 7.7 million people in between the ages of 5 and 24, which is our target market throughout the state of Texas. This number was given to me by the demographics that were researched by the Southern Baptist of Texas Convention. Then 77. There are 77 camps within the state of Texas. So, 7.7 million divided by 77. That's 700,000 students per camp. That is potentially the market share that you can have. And my research there's not one camp that I found that can hold that many campers. So, the opportunity and potential is very large in this market. So, it's not saturated. There's room for growth. So, when I was speaking with some of the camp directors of some different camps, it's no secret that church camps range from 30 to 100 years old. They're kind of getting older. So why is nothing new happening? Is there a barrier to enter this market that I just don't know about? Why are no new camps starting? We're going to answer a little bit of that in a little bit. So what and why should you care? Why are you here? This is something that hits home for me. It's a dream that I've had ever since I went to camp for the first time. I used to go to camp every summer when I was a kid for a week. Growing up, I just loved everything that the camp stood for. The atmosphere, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the love, the growth, the community. And it was all centered around Christ. He just gets you away from the world. We were all there for one purpose, to love one another and to love God. So what I want to accomplish with Living Water is to provide students and adults alike the same opportunity that I had and that many of you have had in the room. The memories, the friendships, the relationships, and decision that will last you a lifetime, all given to you because you were able to go to a camp for a week. So our recommended solution is this. We are looking for investors like you to invest with Living Water and be a strategic partner. This camp will lay on 100 acres on the Brazos River, just outside the city limits of Waco, and it'll be able to fit 1,000 students at one time. We're asking for church partnerships. Cash flow is important to any business. And in our off season, whenever we're kind of slower and things like that, we need just a little bit of extra money to keep it going. And what will you get for contributing? So you'll be first priority on our list to be able to come. This will also be set with a minimum and a deadline that you have to meet. So that way we can make sure we fill the camp to where we need it to be. But we want you to think of us as a strategic missionary partner. We are seeking a total of $900,000 upfront investments to start the camp. This covers our down payment on our loan and all of our amenities, as well as yearly contributions. And our expanded service portfolio. We're going to do more than just a week-long camp in the summer, and we're going to get to that. And then we want to reach capacity in 8 years, which is something that's very doable and very conservative, if you ask me. So here's our agenda. Quickly, we're going to get into our introduction, go over the scope and market, just a little bit deeper than what I've done. We're going to go over some assumptions and the amenities that will be provided in the camp. And then we're going to get into our financial analysis, risks and sensitivity, and finally we'll close it out at the end. So in the state of Texas, that 7.7 million represents 28% of the state population is between the ages of 5 and 24. Again, this is our market. This is our core market that we're going after. And currently there are 77 camps in the market in the state of Texas. 45% of the state of Texas households make less than $50,000 a year. Why is that important? Well, we want to make it affordable. We want to make this camp to be able to be attended to by kids of high risk, kids of low risk, kids of middle risk, whoever it is. We want everybody to be able to come. We don't want price to set a boundary for them. And 45% of the country is unchurched. So this gives us an amazing opportunity to reach out and bring people to camps and hopefully get them involved in churches as well. So where? It's going to be in Waco. Sick, right? Right next to Baylor University. It's going to be about 5-10 miles away from the university. It's going to be on 100 acres just outside of it. It's in the smack dab middle, the heart of the Texas Triangle, which is the area between Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio. Represents 2/3 of the state population. So again, our market is massive, and it's going to continue to grow. And this location provides easy access to and from populated areas. So let's hit the SWOT, right? What are our strengths? What are some of our threats? What are our opportunities? So some of our strengths is that it is in a centralized location. Whenever I was in camp, I used to have to drive 8 hours to go to camp. Some people drive 6 and 5. Well, if you're in Houston, it's going to take you 3 hours to get there. If you're in Austin, it's going to take you an hour. Dallas, 2 hours. So we're right in the middle, where people can just come. It's not going to be a burden on them. And we're right next to a pretty big sized metropolitan area. We're going to have river property lines, so it's very it's going to look pretty, right? Then we're going to have 6 streams of revenue, and we're going to touch on this in a moment. And our very large market. Some of our weaknesses is that it is a very high front-end investment, so at $900,000. It doesn't come cheap. The overall cost of the camp is $6.3 million. But we're going to touch on this in a little bit later. We're heavily dependent on the health of the churches. So if the amount, that percent of unchurched goes up, we might be hurting a little bit. But that's what we're hoping to accomplish with the camp. Opportunities, we're located in the best market in the state of Texas. 2/3 of the population live within 3 hours of Waco. And some of our threats, other camps, obviously in the triangle, as well as church attendance and economic downturn. So what are those 6 streams of revenue that I mentioned? Well, we're going to have week-long camps throughout the summer. We're going to have weekend day camps in the spring and the summer to allow people to come for just 2 days instead of a week, right? Get the kids out of the house, get the parents, let them go enjoy themselves. And then we're going to have after-school programs. So I want to work with the state to get grants and funding to be able to do our after-school program. It's for at-risk kids, or as just an after-school, parents can't take off work or can't be home, or they have a late shift, things like that, to provide a place, a safe haven for kids to come. It's going to be an event center. We're also going to make it a retreat center for team building activities, for corporate retreats, for married couple retreats. And we're going to team up with the university for athletic camps. So we're going to have the different athletic teams come out and put on camps, for training camps for these kids that want to make it to the next step, or want to make it even to like AAU basketball, or make it to college football. Whatever the case is, we want to administer to all age groups with these camps. So our amenities. Church is more about than just playing dodgeball these days. I'll let you read the slide, but the 2 things that really stick out to me are our program curriculum expertise. So we're going to be creating all of these different curriculums. And our community outreach. So one thing that's going to separate us, and this is, I think, going to be a big differentiator for us, this along with customer service, is our community outreach. We're going to go into the city of Waco, into the surrounding communities every single week, and give back. So there's going to be a 2-3 hour time period where we're going to get everybody out, or we're going to do it, strategically, one church at a time, getting out and just getting the community loving on people. Some of our assumptions, it's a laundry list. I'm not going to go through all of them, but again, we are a nonprofit. I don't think I mentioned at the beginning, but it's a nonprofit organization. Partnerships, what we're doing is we're starting our budget at 5% donation rate, which whenever I started this, I took 3 camps, all their financials, consolidated and averaged it out, and that's how I got my number. These are all camps that were similar size of this one that I'm creating, but I want to grow. They're stagnant. They don't want to grow anymore. So 5% is half of what they're doing right now. They're doing 10% of their budget with contributions. So this is where I really want to hit hard of, okay, we have tons of room for growth here, and when we go through our financials, you'll be able to see that as well. So what's our competitive landscape? So if you look, This is just the Texas Triangle with in the center our camp circled. If you look through, there's a couple camps that are somewhat around us, but there's one that's really, really close. And again, it's going to take, in order for us to be successful in this market, in the state of Texas, we're going to have to differentiate ourselves. So to differentiate ourselves with personnel, we're going to hire good people. We're going to hire a business development consultant. And to bring in demand, right? They're going to call out and market and do things like that to bring in people. We're going to have exceptional customer service. We're going to have the best curriculum made. And we're going to do more community outreach. We're going to give back to the city of Waco, give back to the surrounding communities that are around us. So what are some of the fixed cash outlets? So land, $3 million, buildings, as you see, it all equals $6.3 million. And we can get into the detail of how I got these numbers in our comments and questions section. And here's our 5-year cash flow. I based it off 8 years for some of our ratios and things like that, but I can only fit 5 years on the screen. So I apologize, but here's what we have. So our revenues are going to grow 10% a year. It's based on an average calculation that I made that, again, we can get to later on, of 820 students. And we expect that to grow 10%. And that is very, very, very modest and conservative. Really, we're looking at probably more of a line of 15 to 20% growth in the first 5 years, year over year. With our max capacity, again, being 1,000 students at one time, but the average ends up being 1,600 students per revenue per week that it's in business. So we have a ton of room here to play. In your total expenses, this is where I have the personnel. We're going to hire 25 full-time employees. We're going to have 20 part-time people in our busy season. And then we're going to bring in interns over the summer and let them volunteer, right? We're going to have 70. We might pay them a little bit, but obviously they'll get food and board. But we're going to be able to bring people to help us achieve that best customer service, to help achieve bringing in people every single week, week after week. And here's some of our ratios that we have. So our payback period is 8.6 years. Again, $6.6 million, 8 years to pay it back. That's really not that terrible. Our break-even analysis that I did is that my calculation, the average is 650 campers a week. And again, I'll give you all these numbers at the end of the presentation. And then I got our internal rate of revenue of 4% at the average of 820. This is our baseline. And then we have a negative NPV of $3 million. So before you say, oh my gosh, this isn't going to make any money, this is at a discount rate of 20% over 8 years. If we move that to a 10%, because we're a nonprofit, right, we won't be charged at a 20% for our cost. But we will be about 8 to 10%. So again, that's going to what's posted in the positive. And that's why I threw in our debt service coverage ratio of 2.3. 2.4 really in year one, and it goes all the way up to 4. It goes up to 4.2 by year 8, because what it's doing is it's our ability to pay back our loans, because we're going to be heavy loans, right? That $900,000 covers 10% of our loan and all the amenities. And now let's talk about cost of square foot. Our overall cost of square foot is $1.45. This is of the overall square foot of the acres. So 100 acres, square footage, how much does it cost for all the buildings, the land, the amenities, etc. Again, very great. I think some people's homes, they're paying $20 a square foot. So things like that are really baked into here, not to fluff it up, but to really give you an idea of what we can do and what we will do. So what is it sensitive to? What are our risks? So our risks are the contribution amounts. Not gonna hide it. We need an investment from the churches to make this work. So if you think about it, that's what we're really dependent on. 5% first year, moving up every year after that. And then the amount of campers per year. Church attendance and church numbers are going to be hugely impactful for our business. Because if your attendance goes down, our attendance goes down. And the sensitivity is based on the graph as campers per week, which is the blue line, and contribution percent as a revenue. They're both positively correlated. When one goes up, the other goes up. When one goes down, the other goes down. So we're really walking a fine line here. But again, this is something that I think it's very doable for Living Water. So our final recommendation, the goal, the mission of this camp for Living Water is to see lives and hearts changed for Christ while bettering ourselves and the community around us. And again, I don't want you to get hung up on the NPV, right? I know it was a low number. It was a high discount rate. And it's not going to be that way. I still believe that it is in the best interest of the communities and the kids of this market and the adults of this market to move forward with Living Water. While there is monetary value assigned to the camp, can you really put a value on the effect that you can have on anyone's life for any greater good? All the community outreach that we're going to do, all the pouring into these kids that we're going to do. Can you really put a value on that? And then, again, just to kind of close it out, I'm seeking $900,000 from churches, businesses, individuals up front with yearly contributions to meet 5 to 15% of our revenues to keep us moving. So that leads me to my final question. Will you join me as a strategic partner in fulfilling my vision for Living Water? And at this time, I'll take any questions, but I want to thank you for your time today, and I look forward to working with you in the future.